Hello, I'm Clayton Brough, and welcome to Nearly 1,000 Years of Family History. In this video, you'll see and hear how one of the world's largest ancestral family organizations has discovered and shared its family history with thousands of relatives living in many countries and on several continents. As president of the Richard Broughs Family Organization, or RBFO, I hope you enjoy this true story that covers nearly 1,000 years.
Like most people who have lived on this earth and experienced life throughout the generations of time, our Broughs ancestors experienced a lot of challenges and struggles. However, by and large, they were faithful to their families and contributed much to their civic and religious communities. In fact, in most cases, the beliefs we now have and the freedoms we enjoy are largely a result of their efforts and sacrifices. And I believe that as we better understand the lives and experiences of our ancestors, we come to appreciate more fully what we now have and enjoy.
The story of the Broughs of Staffordshire begins with the Norman invasion of England. In the fall of 1066, William, the Duke of Normandy, crossed the English Channel with about 600 ships and 12,000 men. At the Battle of Hastings, William, who was also known as William the Conqueror, defeated King Harold of England and his Anglo-Saxon forces. On Christmas Day in 1066, William was crowned King of England, and he eventually rewarded his Norman supporters with large grants of land and important positions. In the 1100s, some of King William's supporters had settled in Staffordshire, where their descendants adopted the surname Burgo. By the 1600s, the surname had changed to Brough. The word Brough is an ancient English place name meaning camp, fortification, or manor house, and it also meant a round tower or the outer wall of a feudal castle. Over several centuries, many Brough-related families lived in southern and central Staffordshire.
Renton is a small village in central Staffordshire, located about 3 miles west of Stafford City. Its parish church, All Saints, is very old, with part of the building dating back to the 1200s or 13th century. In 2008, RBFO family members visited All Saints and discovered the mention of Brough Hall on one of the oldest gravestones that still lies next to the church. Today, Brough Hall is located about 1 mile southwest of Renton. The present building dates from the 1700s and stands on the site of the ancient manor house of Brough. The building is well maintained and serves as the centerpiece of a working farm. About 1 mile southwest of Brough Hall is the town of Nosal, a large and ancient village. Its parish church, St. Lawrence, is a beautiful and large edifice. Many Brough families have lived in Nosal, including William Brough and Jane Mere, who in the 1800s had 9 children, 5 of whom emigrated to Utah and California.
We say, please come into our church, wander around. We do have, you can see we have a lot of gravestones here. We have a list.
In the 1500s, a number of Brough families had moved into northern Staffordshire. There, they established more than a half-dozen principal Brough houses on the Leekfrith, a large, fertile green valley in the Staffordshire moorlands that is bordered by hills and rocky outcroppings. On the Leekfrith, these Brough houses generally contain manor houses and land holdings, and were known by their geographic locations such as Middlehume, Newgrange, Waterhouse, and Windygates. Today, thousands of Broughs are descended from these ancient Brough houses, including most members of the Richard Broughs Family Organization.
In 2002, our son Adam Brough hiked to the top of Hencloud, which is over 1,300 feet high. Hencloud overlooks the Leekfrith area, where many Brough families have resided since the 1500s. On one of the large rocks near the top of Hencloud, Adam spotted an old weathered hand carving that read Brough T, possibly representing a Thomas Brough.
My cousin Nathan Meekum and I were on top of Hens Cloud, overlooking this view, this panorama of history of where my family lived. And while we were there taking in this beautiful scenery, I looked down on some boulders that we were close to and noticed a name etched in the rock. And the name that was etched on the stone was Brough T. I could not help but think about my third great-grandfather, who was also named Thomas Brough, who left England, came to the United States, with his wife Jane Patterson, where he later moved to Utah and had 5 children.
Below Hen Cloud is Windygates, an ancient Brough manor hall built by Thomas Brough. In 1620, Thomas married Elizabeth Cotton, and by the 1630s he was known as a gentleman and landholder who had erected a large hall at Windygates where he had inscribed his initials over the top of its porch entrance that read TB 1634. Today, Windygates is a beautiful farmhouse owned and operated by Jeff and Rose Robinson. Jeff is a third cousin 10 times removed to Thomas Brough, who originally built Windygates, and he is also a distant cousin to many members of the Richard Brough family organization, some of whom visited Windygates in 2008.
You probably all know it was built in 1634. And what we do know, this part of the house was, I presume this part of the house would be 1634, and this end here was built some years later. Probably about 30 or 40, I think. All I know really is it's oak. I don't know whether it was new timber when it was put in or whether it was from ships or where it was from really. I presume probably these would be new timbers.
Yeah.
Some in the roof are from ships. Because it has been cut out in certain places.
Yeah, are these, is that original, the stone?
Yeah.
Yes, I would think it's all original, yeah.
So we were knocking the old plaster off and he uncovered this stone archway, which we didn't know about and you wouldn't. Long before Jeff's mother's, I mean, and it's been in the family since 1930 something, but nobody's seen that, you see. And I suppose it could have been covered up for 100, 200 years, couldn't it really? But you don't value things necessarily at the time. Afterwards you think, oh, why did we do that, or why did we demolish that, and you chuck things out, don't you? And then 20 years later, what a shame, we chucked them away. They're gone.
Was the timber, the fireplace was exposed already?
This, we've added this to it.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't there. That's not original. It was just the outside stones. And then it had been filled up with some stones up each side. Because as you see on the archway, there's just 2 stones.
In 1702, another Thomas Brough married Edith Brinley. Thomas inherited Middlehume from his father and subsequently enlarged it, placing his initials and date TB 1718 above the doorway of the manor house. Thomas Brough was a very resourceful and successful individual, and by the time he died at the age of 80, he had acquired additional properties in Staffordshire. In 2002, Middlehume underwent renovation. Adam Brough, who is 6 foot 4 inches in height, is shown here going through a doorway inside Middlehume.
During the 17 and 1800s, many Brough families settled in other areas of northern Staffordshire. For example, in 1700, Ralph Brough was christened in St. Lawrence the Martyr Church in Rushton Spencer, and married Martha Holland in 1727. Ralph Brough is the 5th great-grandfather of James or Jim Henry Brough, who is shown here with his wife Rosemary. The Church of St. Lawrence in Rushton Spencer stands on top of a hill that overlooks a beautiful part of the Staffordshire moorlands. People have worshipped at St. Lawrence for over 700 years, with portions of the church building dating back to the late 1200s. Rushton's St. Lawrence Church was once called the Church in the Wilderness. A rather narrow road leads from the highway up towards the church, but then widens out at the top of the hill. Graves lie next to the church, and a large graveyard extends down the hill from the chapel and contains a number of Brough headstones.